Oh no.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Way of Ramen and Happy New Year! And welcome to all you new subscribers. I don't know what's going on, but thank you guys all so much for joining me as I try to learn how to make real ramen. Today I'm attempting to make a bowl of Takeoka-shiki Ramen. This style of ramen comes from a small shop in Chiba prefecture called Umenoya. This shop is known for doing two unusual things, which you'll see in this video. This is not a fantastic bowl of ramen by any means, but it's more of a throwback to post-World War II ramen. Its flavors are very basic, but it's very cheap and easy to make. So with that being said, let's get right into this one. So there are actually very few ingredients in this ramen. Just a few aromatics and some other ingredients that you'd always find around in a standard Japanese kitchen. I'm gonna start off by just cutting up some green onion and some ginger. We're gonna use this for the braising liquid for the chashu. I'm also gonna dice one onion. Some of this will be added to the chashu as well, but most of it will be used as a topping for the final bowl of ramen. Once diced, put the onion in some cold water to soak while you're making your chashu. And speaking of chashu, for this style of ramen, you would typically use pork belly, but I actually found this at the supermarket, country-style boneless pork ribs, which are dirt cheap and they looked okay, so I decided to give these a try instead. Get your pork into a pot and add about 300 cc's of shoyu. This is 780 grams of pork, by the way. And to that, add 50 cc's of sake and 50 cc's of mirin. Add your ginger slices and your green onion tops. Bring this up to a boil and then skim off some of the scum that comes up. And once you got the scum off, lower the heat to a simmer and drop a piece of foil with a hole punched in the middle over the pork. This is called an otoshibuta in Japanese and it's used to braise meats. I checked the pork after an hour of braising and it was still a little bit firm. So I added a quarter of the diced onion and I put the otoshibuta back on and let it go for another 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes, the chashu was nice and soft, so I pulled it out of the braising liquid and it looked freaking fantastic and it smelled great too. I had tried to make chashu like this in the past using just, shoyu and some other things, and it came out way too salty, so I think it really does come down to the brand of soy sauce that you're using. I used Yamasa brand soy sauce for this, and when I looked it up on the internet, it kind of had a similar salt content to the brand of shoyu that they use at Umenoya. So if you can find Yamasa, give that a try. What's left in the pot is called Kaeshi, and we're actually going to use this as a tare for our bowl of ramen. Chashu is usually easier to cut if you cool it down first, but I'm just cutting this hot. And as you can see, it's very soft and it looks great. So here's the first weird thing about Takeoka-shiki Ramen. They don't make any soup, they just use hot water. All of the soup flavor is going to come from the Kaeshi, which is why we needed to cook the pork in the soy sauce, unlike other methods where you boil the pork separately. Get some water into a bowl, use it to heat up your bowl, and then dump it out. Then add your Kaeshi, and if you want, some MSG. Because there's no soup, you have to go heavy with the tares, so I went with about 100 milliliters of Kaeshi here to 300 milliliters of hot water. The second unusual thing about Takeoka-shiki Ramen is they don't use fresh noodles, they use dried noodles. So I decided to see if it would work with the cheapest instant ramen I could find. It didn't, and these noodles were terrible. Strain your noodles and add them to your bowl, and then top that with the chashu, menma bamboo shoots, and a pile of diced onions. And if you have it, you can add a piece of nori as well. And that is a bowl of Takeoka-shiki Ramen. Super easy to make and super cheap. Like I said, there's nothing mind-blowing about this bowl. The flavors are all pretty basic, but I just like how down-to-earth making ramen out of hot water is. Ramen is a relatively new food and actually only really took off after World War II because it was cheap and calorie dense and it could be used to feed a starving nation. It's come a long way since, but bowls like this are truly its roots. Anyways, if you decide to try this out, please don't use instant noodles. Those were terrible. I tested it again with homemade noodles and it turned out much better. Also, the chashu might be a little bit too salty for some people, so you may want to adjust that as well. Like I said, it really does depend upon the brand of soy sauce that you use. After I made this video, I had remembered that Brian over at Ramen Adventures did a video with Shono-san of Mensho on how to do this exact same style of ramen. His recipe is probably better than mine, so check his video out too, I'll link it up in the description below. Brian was also a guest on my podcast, and you can listen to his interview as well as other interviews with other ramen cooks from around the world on Spotify, iTunes, or Google Podcasts. Just search Way of Ramen Podcast. If you're serious about making ramen, we get into some really geeky stuff in each episode, so please check it out. Anyways, thank you guys all so much for all the support. I'm just completely blown away. I'm not an expert or anything, I'm just a normal guy trying to learn how to make ramen and documenting everything that I learned. I'm having a blast doing this though, and I really hope you guys are having as much fun making ramen as I am. And let's all level up together in 2020. Alright, I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace.